T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Don't mess with the wrong melon farmers. Thug life. And here we go.
I prayed that he would burn in hell, but in my heart, I know hell would have him.
You are all my children now.
Then I will avenge his death.
Hello, Sydney. Are you ready?
Touch me.
The Force will be with you, always.
I wish I had you all alone, just the two of us.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Movies and Beyond. Once again, I am Michael, and today, finally, I've been trying to do this show for about 4 weeks now, maybe longer, but we're getting into the Ahsoka Show today. I'm super excited to talk about this, and there is so much to talk about. I doubt that we'll get through all of it, and I know I definitely couldn't do it by myself. So I had to bring a good friend on here tonight. You know, one that is pretty much my YouTube Star Wars. If I'm talking Star Wars, I'm talking with this guy because he's right there with me, if not knowing more than me. And that's Michael from the Carbonite Jedi. What is up, my man? I'm ready to talk about Ahsoka tonight.
I am too. May the Force be with you.
As with you, sir. As with you. I know Russell Dorsey's in the chat tonight, and I want to say what's up to Russell for the simple fact that not only do I like to say what's up to Russell when he's in the chat, but he has been asking for let's talk Ahsoka for weeks, and I've been like, Russell, I'm trying to get to it, buddy. I'm trying to get to it. Well, finally, 2 episodes left in the season, and we are here, to talk about Ahsoka. And maybe once the season's over, we can go back and just like recap the whole thing. Maybe I can get you back on here and we can, get together and just talk about, everything. I mean, there's so much, there's so much attached to this.
A lot.
So,
A lot from Rebels and from Clone Wars and from
Yep.
the regular Star Wars and even something that, I got a teaser of that might be even from Legends.
oh, wow. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That is freaking awesome. Like, I know that the show's on tonight, so I know as soon as this show is over, excuse me, when I know as soon as this show is over where I'm going. I'm going to the couch. I've got some snacks. I got me a nice drink that I'm gonna sit there, man. And I know I'm definitely watching Ahsoka because of where it left off. And it seems like after every episode, man, I'm like, already.
Yeah, I know.
The credits come up and it's just like that. Jerry Wilson's also in the chat. I want to say what's up to Jerry, one of my new mods. And he'll be looking after the chat and hanging out with us tonight. I just want to say what's up to you too there, Jerry. All right. So I do want to take a quick moment before we get started. So I don't know what's up with my throat tonight. I think I'm getting a cold, which sucks because I'm the guy that gets sick when it's 85 degrees outside. I can go all winter and not get sick, but it could be 85, 90 degrees outside and I'm the guy that gets the flu. You know what I mean? Like it makes no sense to me whatsoever. And I just got over a cold last week, so I don't
know
remnants of that or if I'm going back into another one, which kind of sucks. But I do want to take a quick moment to say what's up to my Patreon members and give them their time to shine on my channel. So we'll be back in 1 second.
Nice.
All right. Oh yeah. Gotta give my Patreon members, their time on the channel. We're having a ton of fun over there on Patreon. You can do a little more there than you can do here on YouTube. So we're definitely getting into some fun stuff over there. Not so much Star Wars stuff yet. But I do have some plans for that in the near future for sure to get into over that. But man, so when we really get started with this, just a quick overall of so far what we have seen with the Ahsoka show, expectation wise, for you going into this, where do you feel that you're at with that expectation wise?
For me coming in, I didn't really, I was excited about it. I didn't have any expectation because I wasn't sure how they're going to go with this. I know they teased us with Ahsoka's chasing Thrawn, but it's just so much more than just her chasing Thrawn. And I feel like it's been pretty fantastic so far. I really like the way it goes. They throw in all these people that you've only seen in the animated series, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think that I can definitely say that one character out of this movie that has exceeded my expectations, and this is gonna sound funny to you guys, but Chopper. Dude, Chopper is the man. Like in Rebels, I remember loving Chopper, and I was just like, okay, they're gonna bring Chopper to live action. Is he still gonna be a dick? You know what I mean? Because in all essence, Chopper, he's a little asshole, man.
Yep.
Like, and it was, I think it was episode 1 right away. Chopper's in there with Hera. They're trying to get that tracker on that ship. And she's like, don't miss this time. And he's like, who's been in my toolbox? And she's like, not me. He's like, yes, you were. Like it was automatically back to, the Chopper that I absolutely loved. And, there he is, dude. And Chopper makes a lot of this for me, coming out of Rebels. Like he was one of my favorite characters out of the whole thing. And man, I couldn't be happier, with the way that they're portraying Chopper because he does his job, but he's a total dick about it. And that's exactly what I wanted out of that character. I absolutely loved him.
Yep. He's a funny guy. And one thing I just realized, and I didn't know this because I didn't look very deeply at it, but You know who the voice of Huang is?
It's that dude. Give me a second. David.
Yep.
It begins with a T.
You know who it is, David Tennant.
Yes, thank you.
He was
Yes.
he was actually my favorite. Well, one of my favorites. There's another guy, but the Doctor Who series.
Yes.
He was a great Doctor Who. I really loved his seasons of Doctor Who. But yeah, I didn't even realize it that he was the voice of Huang.
Yeah.
So
And Hu Yang, he's definitely a good character in this as well, too. Like
he's kind of a dick too sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not on like Chopper level, but
No.
but yeah, he definitely tells it how it is. He's definitely it's logic and it's Clone Wars style droid just right there. Like, I don't really care about your feelings. This is how it is. But he did show emotion in episode 5 when he was holding Sabine's helmet, standing there on the edge of the cliff. So it was kind of like, wow, man, like maybe this droid does, really care about them. Like, he looked over and said, I told them to stay together, and they never listen. And it's just like, wow, man, like this droid is showing emotion. But then he goes from that side of things to walking with Jason, and Jason's like, will you train me? He's like, no. And he's like, do you know how to build a lightsaber? He's like, yes. He's like, will you show me? He's like, no. Just flat out. Like and it's great, man. He's a great character for that. But
and he tells Sabine, he's like, you're probably one of the worst Jedi I've ever seen. What?
Like, you gotta be the worst Jedi I've ever seen in this.
Yeah.
I've ever seen in this. I do want to bring up this question right here. Also brought up, what do you guys think about the Ebloth theory? And it's like, is that what you were talking about from Legends?
Yeah. They have Legends where the Mortis gods who I think she was either one of the Mortis gods or she served them and she wanted eternal life. And when she got it, it like totally like messed her up and she became one of the darkest Sith ever. And so the Mortis gods trapped her in the black holes of Kessel and trapped her there. But now they're saying if she is on Ahsoka, which I sure hope she is, there's a chance she might be on Pridia, and that's what Baylan Skoll has been talking about, trying to find this thing that's calling to him, from across galaxies. Yeah. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just said, one of my friends said, there's no way, this is all for kids and toys. I was like, this isn't George Lucas doing this, man.
No.
I was like, if they do bring her in, this is going to be a dark series. It'll be great because it won't be some hidden shadow group organization that Ahsoka's fighting. It'll be like one person that, she's focusing her energy on.
Yeah.
So I think it would be great.
Didn't she end up becoming like the balance of the Force or something like that through Legends? Like, she became like almost a mother figure that Legends is so spotty for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like I followed it like the regular shows and stuff like that, because once you get into Legends, you're going down a whole nother rabbit hole.
A lot of rabbit holes.
It's just like there's that, and I do wish that I knew more about Legends, and it's just like, man, keeping up with like big on horror, keeping up with that, and then keeping my Star Wars to the the canon series at the moment, it's just enough to be like, wow, man, you are constantly watching something, and I still haven't even watched the second season of Bad Batch, so I'm still behind one as it is, and it's just like, man, trying to keep up with everything, it's a good problem to have. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna definitely complain about it, but yeah, man, if they could incorporate that, I think that would be fantastic. Like, I think it would be fun too.
Yeah, as for your question, I think Abeloth was the balance, and and she was considered the mother, I think. But there was the father, and then the son was the dark side, the daughter was the light side. They had it in season 4 or season 3 of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
and but they didn't show Abeloth there. It was after they had got rid of her and put her in the black hole or whatever. But they're saying that if this is true, that it probably they probably put her on Peridia, where they just came from, so that galaxy where the witches are right now. So
Yeah. Well, too, if I'm not mistaken, the daughter was, they helped, Anakin, bring Ahsoka back to life,
Yep.
through the life force of the daughter,
Mhm.
before she died. Like I
Yep.
do remember that, and that's another one that's wow, man. Like the Clone Wars was amazing to me, especially when it was
Mhm.
all said and done. When it first started, I was just kind of like, this is moving kind of slow,
Yeah.
But once you got into season 2, it was like, okay,
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of theories that go around. They're saying that since she died from the son and then was brought back by the daughter, that she's becoming the embodiment of the Mortis gods right now
yeah,
to fight Abeloth. So
yeah, that's cool. Russell is saying that Thrawn looked awesome. Thrawn looks pretty good.
really
You
tough.
know, he does, and it going, segueing into Thrawn. To me, Thrawn, being at the end of Rebels and everything, there was kind of so much that happened with this guy. And yes, I mean, he looks freaking incredible for live action from
Mhm.
animation. You know what I mean? He came out to be fantastic in his mannerisms and everything. It definitely feels like Thrawn to me. And when they see him for the first time, he has all the troopers and you see his ship, I think it was the Chimera that
Mhm.
the whales attached onto and took, something that when they first showed that and they show the Chimera, rising up, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. But something that they also did was they showed the repairs on the side of it. Like
Mhm.
if you look at the side, is that where the the whales had latched on, and took him and Ezra off, and well, actually the whole ship off. Was that the damage that they've replaced over time? It just seems like they're doing so well with staying consistent, with Rebels and with the story. And I really have to thank, Dave Filoni for that, man, and him just, sticking with, the subject material. And it just makes it like I started rewatching Rebels the other night. It's like, okay, it's been a couple years for this. I knew enough about it to watch Ahsoka, but it's just like, let me see what I've been missing. And I think I'm on like season 2 or something like that. But it's fun all over again because there's so many little things that happen that I've
Mhm.
forgotten. And what did you think of Thrawn, when he came on the screen for the first time?
I I was kind of blown away too. I mean, the live action version of Thrawn, I thought he would actually be a little bit look a little bit younger, or
Mhm.
but it didn't take away from him at all. I mean, Lars Mikkelsen did a great job
Yeah.
as Thrawn, and then when they brought out Captain Enoch, he was kind of scary,
Yeah.
and so maybe I missed it, but the red strings and stuff the troopers had on their legs.
Yeah.
What was that about?
I'm not entirely sure, to
Okay.
be honest. And even, the main trooper,
Enoch.
Enoch, yeah. He has, the gold
Uh
face
huh.
and everything like that. And I'm just like, well, is that, damage replacements? Is that what they're, going with that stuff?
Hmm.
It hasn't been explained yet. And I'm sure that it's speculation among, everyone at this point to say
Hmm.
what exactly is this. But I mean, I don't know if they will explain it or not, or if, you have to be someone that has watched every episode of Rebels like 10
Yeah.
times to be like, oh, that's that, you know what I mean? Or something. But man, I at this point I am totally, invested, more so in this than I have been in anything, Star Wars for a long time.
Hmm.
And I'm absolutely loving, where we're at, especially like we talked about a few minutes ago before with, bringing the animated characters to life. I think that everyone looks fantastic.
Hmm.
It's seeing Hera for the first time, in live action. I'm just like, wow, man. Like I know who that is. You don't have to tell me anything. I know exactly who that is. And a lot of times when you go from animation to, real life, there's so many differences, but it
Hmm.
doesn't really seem like that at all with this. It really
Yeah,
feels natural.
it does. A lot of it. I mean, almost all of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fantastic.
Russell is saying, what about Ezra? You know, uh, I didn't think that we would see Ezra this soon. I kind of felt like maybe it would be a little more. What was it, episode 6? Well, I guess that's about right. You don't want to bring him in the beginning, but
Was he going to pull Luke at the very end of episode 8 and just look at the lightsaber and throw it?
and throw it, and that be it. And it's just like, tune in next season on Ahsoka, where you might
Yeah.
see more. You know what I mean? Like that's freaking hilarious for sure. But it's been what, 10 years? They said about 10 years since
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
they disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Denisha's in the chat saying, "Hey everyone," and Michael, what is up, Denisha? How you doing?
Hey, Denisha.
But yeah, man. So bringing these characters to life and everything, and looking at the story, we get in the very first episode, and believe me, I want to get to all the flashback stuff here in a little bit because I feel like that's where I'm gonna go,
Yeah.
for the longest. But looking at in the very first episode, we kind of get a look, at our new villains, Balin Skull and Shin, standing there. They come up on the ship, and it just seems like to me this show started with a bang.
Mm-hmm.
Right away you're getting Jedi stuff. You know what I mean? And usually with Star Wars things and everything, if you're going to get Jedis, it's usually sprinkled in here and sprinkled in there. But with this being about, Ahsoka Tano, I was really hoping that we'd get, plenty of, Jedi action, if you want to call it that. And man, it started off with a bang. What did you think about seeing them for the first time?
Well, the thing that made my heart race was they were using orange lightsabers, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because they are like white Jedi or gray Jedi or whatever, but more on the side of the dark than the light, I guess.
Right.
And or maybe it's just a failed. they failed their kyber crystals or whatever. It hasn't really said, but I thought it was really cool. They had the orange lightsabers, and to see him working with the witch, on that's in the bridge, I was like, man, what's gonna entail with this,
Right.
But yeah, and to think he was a part of the Jedi before Order 66, and then he becomes, I guess, a mercenary,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just so sad he passed away. That hurts me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to wrap that up.
I don't know. I mean, when you look at it too, he even says, at the beginning when she's like, "You're a man of your word," and he's like, "Well, I'm paid very well."
Yes.
So his allegiance isn't necessarily to her. That's where
Mhm.
he's getting his paycheck.
Yep.
It's not like, "Oh, I am here to fight." No, you're paying me. This is almost Boba Fett style.
Yep.
Force users at this point. Like, I think that if stuff goes down to a point to where the other side's losing, I don't really see them sacrificing themselves to save the day.
No.
For
no.
Thrawn and Morgan. I just don't see that whatsoever. It's kind of like that bounty hunter mentality. Like, you're paying me, that's why I'm here.
Yep.
And I think that's a cool dynamic to have because we really haven't seen so much of that, live action, you did in Clone Wars.
Well, and on the, I guess the bad side, you have, Balin Skull and Shin, and then you have, what's her name? Morgan. And then you have Grand Admiral Thrawn, and it seems like they all have their own little agenda that they're trying to do. I think Morgan was trying to find Grand Admiral Thrawn. Grand Admiral Thrawn's trying to get back to the galaxy, and then Balin Skull is trying to figure out what this power is that's calling him from, across the galaxy, and then Shin's just, hanging on. following Balin's skull wherever he goes, so
Right.
it's just interesting how much of a dynamic that creates, with those
Yeah.
three.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. The villains are being villains, right?
yep.
You know?
Especially when Grand Admiral Thrawn's like, the Jedi are expendable, so if we leave, we leave, and they're left there.
If they're not back,
Yeah.
sorry about you. I really don't care. I have
Yeah.
another agenda. But Thrawn was always that major villain. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I don't know if you remember back in the day, in the books.
Oh,
What
yeah.
was the book that Thrawn was in right after Return of the Jedi? And I remember, at the beginning of the book reading, if, Admiral Thrawn was leading, the assault against the rebels, they would have never blown up the Death Star because he's this military genius.
Mhm.
And that's the way they depicted him in Rebels. So if you're not familiar with Rebels, watching the Ahsoka show, like, yeah, you may look at this guy like, yeah, he's a blue villain. This guy is a genius. He is a master, military general. Like, he is the man that you want, strategizing for your war. And that's why Ahsoka and the Hera and them are so afraid for him to come back, because they know that there's going to be a huge war. And if he does, and Thrawn really doesn't need all that much with his intelligence to take everything over again. Like, he's just fantastic. Like, he will unify all the, Imperial stragglers that are running around, and he will bring all that together, and they will, fall under him. And next thing you know, you've got a whole nother empire out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what everybody's trying to keep him from doing, or at least
Yeah.
the people that believe he's still alive.
Yeah. And as we know, now he is. And,
Yeah.
So is Ezra. And that was something else that we, found out recently. Well, we all knew going in that we were going to see him eventually,
Mhm.
But it was actually good to see, Ezra in live action, and to bring another character to life. You could just look at his face. You know what I mean? And you're just like, that's Ezra Bridger. You know what I mean? Like, he may
Yep.
have a beard now, and he may be a little older, but I know exactly who that is from the animated series. And it makes me wonder too, because watching through Rebels, you kind of watched Ezra grow up, towards the beginning of Rebels. He was very, immature. He's always had a good heart, but a lot of times they suffered because of that.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering how far Ezra's come, in those 10 years, as far as, maturing and understanding that, all the actions that, they all have consequences. That was a big part of Rebels with Ezra, was he was always wanting to do the right thing, but a lot of times the right thing would make things so much worse for them.
Yeah.
And that was something tough too. And I'm just curious to see, once Ezra gets back into the fold of things, but where we've currently left off, Sabine hasn't told him, like, hey, I'm here, but we really don't have a ride. So
What was your thoughts about that when she kind of led him on that? Should she just have told him? Hey,
Sabine is Sabine, right? So Sabine probably should have done a lot of things differently at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
from originally taking the map, she should have just worked on it there, but she had to be Sabine about it, and take it home to where it
Yeah.
got taken. She had a chance to destroy it, but, looking after her own, feelings about Ezra, now we have a whole other situation. Now, granted, it was good to get Ezra back, but at the same time, what is going to be the cost of that? Because I do know for a fact that there's going to be a Thrawn movie. So, spoiler alert, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
not going to end in 2 episodes. So I do know that. And that was basically the decisions that she has made that has started that. So when she goes and lies to Ezra, I'm just like, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it's about on par with where we're going here, Sabine.
Yeah.
And I think that she's had a little bit of a hard time maturing in these 10 years, to where, she had issues with Ahsoka. Obviously in her training, things weren't going right. But then again, from Ahsoka's standpoint too, to kind of segue into, my next thing with Ahsoka wasn't in a great place either. She really wasn't when this series started. And a lot of people were just like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with Ahsoka. Well, look at Ahsoka's past. Like, what has she gone through up to this point? And that segues me into my next, question I have from Russell. What did y'all think about Anakin? That was awesome. And, to see the world between worlds, in live action, we saw it in Rebels, we saw it with Ezra, and for her to get, to the world between worlds. And when she's standing there and the camera's facing her, you're just like, I know where that's at. Like something bad happened when she hit the water. And she turns around, and who else is standing there? The one person that you would want standing there. You have freaking Anakin Skywalker looking back at her. And of course, that's where you get the end of episode 4. And you're just like, oh my God, like, why would you do this to me? It's a full week, and he's standing there. And it's the first time you get the live action Anakin, with a live action Ahsoka. And for me, it's just like, I start getting a flood of memories. Like, to me, this is one thing about the Clone Wars that I love so much was their relationship. I think that she had a lot to do with, not only did Anakin have a lot to do with her development, she had a lot to do with his. When you think of Anakin turning and his, deal with Padme, that's what they portrayed in the movies. But then when you go into the Clone Wars, it's more than that. Everybody, even Ahsoka, was gone. And you start to think that maybe if Ahsoka was there, he may not have turned, but they had that whole thing with Ahsoka and, the Jedi and them kicking, her out, her going through the trial and then, wanting her back and she being like, no, like, you guys turned your back on me. Those are some of the types of things that she's dealing with. Someone that she loved and cared about like a brother changed into the worst person in the universe. Like, she has had a lot of heartache. And when she sees him for the first time, it's just like, oh, there's a lot to say here. There is definitely a lot going on here. And it's like, you've got to be freaking kidding me, man. What were your emotions seeing, Hayden Christensen standing behind her?
I was excited. I was very excited to see both, like you said, both of them at the same time. And then, he kept switching from the light side to the dark side to the light side. And I'm just, for me, it was like, is he reflecting what Ahsoka's turmoil and feeling is? Because basically, if she's a gray Jedi, she's balancing both of those at the same time,
Yeah.
And the duels, I mean, them dueling together, that was fantastic. That just rocked my world when they were fighting.
It literally, like, you have this right here, this shot where she says to him, I'm not going to fight you. And he pulls some Return of the Jedi shit out and says, I've heard that before. If you look back at Luke, I will not fight you, then you will die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's basically what he was saying to her. But a lot of things, I think that a lot of people missed the point with that was, Anakin was Anakin, and he was portraying himself in a way to relate with her, to help her. He still has things to show her. Her training was cut short, not only from her leaving, but when they started to get back together, he changed the Darth Vader. There's still a lot to really, go over with that. If you want to sit there, I mean, we could talk about this for 2 hours and I could probably talk nonstop about it because of the emotions that gave me.
Yeah.
And not only their duel where she, gets that kickoff on him and she's like, it doesn't seem like there's more that you can teach me. And he just smiles and he's like, I haven't taught you everything. Yeah. And he cuts the floor out from under her. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
There are a lot of things, and I, saw some. You're always going to get with Star Wars. You're going to get people complaining about, well, Ahsoka can't beat Anakin. Anakin's not trying to destroy her.
No,
you know what I mean. He's trying to teach her, and it's not like he's going full bore like he did against Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
in Revenge of the Sith. That's the thing to remember with that. Let me say what's up to a couple people. Dark Witch is in the chat. What's happening, everyone? I had issues logging on. I get it. We're definitely glad to have you here for sure. For sure. And Dino is in the chat saying, "Oh my God, Carbonite." What is up, Dino?
What's up, Dino?
He says, "What's up, Michael and Michael?" What's going on, my man?
M&M's.
Russell was saying, I think that it was all in her mind. He really wasn't there. I probably do disagree with that, Russell. I do think that he was there, man. And I think that we're going to see more of Anakin, because if you look at the world between worlds, if Ahsoka's going to go there, who else would be there but Anakin?
I mean, didn't she meet, was it her that met Yoda, or was it Ezra Bridger that met Yoda in the world between worlds?
I want to say it was Ezra.
Okay.
But I know Ezra had that fight with the Emperor through the portal too. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Like there was a lot going on with that too. But
in Return of the Jedi, they switched out Anakin for Anakin, young Anakin. Right. Yeah. So he's a Force ghost now. So he can do these things.
George Lucas talked a little bit about that. They asked him like, "Well, why did you do that?" Because he didn't look like that when he died. And George Lucas's response was, "That's when he died as a Jedi."
Yep.
He said, "So to me, it wouldn't make sense to have the older person there because he wasn't a Jedi. Though he was redeemed and helped his son, he was still, on the dark side." So, that was something I really didn't like the first time I saw it. But, after really thinking about it and, George Lucas talking about like, no, as a Force user, he should have been young, and that it made me not, it didn't bother me as much, for sure. Dino is saying, "I wish I knew as much as you guys on Star Wars. I tried so hard to get into it." Hey, man, it's like once you get on that, dude, there's definitely no going back. Like, so if you do decide that you want to invest in Star Wars, man, just all I got to say is buckle up, man, because it's a lifelong journey. Let me tell you for sure.
Yep.
Oh, let's see. Jerry's saying, "I'm with you, Dino. I love the first three. After that, I'm lost." Well, Jerry, if you want to get unlost, buddy, there are two people here on this show right now that can help you get in any way that you want to get with Star Wars. Dark Witch is saying, "Dino, I am right there with you." And I get it. We can work on that. We can definitely get with that. Russell is also saying it was Ezra that met Yoda.
Oh, okay.
And yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But now Ahsoka did meet Yoda when she was in that temple before she fought Vader for the first time.
That's right.
When she was sitting there and she really found out who Anakin was, and Yoda was there as well too. But Ahsoka, she knew Yoda from the beginning because Yoda was like, "I'm gonna later, Padawan Tano, I'm going to, give you to a master of Skywalker and everything." And then you got that first Clone Wars movie where a lot of people didn't know that was a thing, and they just went into the Clone Wars, and Ahsoka was already there. But I always tell them, no, you have to watch the Clone Wars movie. There's an animated movie where they're introduced and everything, and that's epic in itself. To where we are now, to look back and her to come up like, like, "Nope, I'm supposed to be with you." And she's like, "You're stuck with me, Sky Guy." And then you hear Rex just laughing in the background. Like, I like this kid. You know what I mean? I definitely like this kid. And Rex, that's another one for me. Like getting into this, flashback of, Anakin cuts, the floor out from under her and she falls. And when she wakes up, and I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, and I talked to you a little bit about this backstage, Michael, before we came out. I literally had tears coming down my face seeing young Ahsoka running live action, running behind live action Anakin, and she's running behind him, and he's like, "Come on, Snips," and they're running, and he stops, and he's like, "Come on, let's go." And she's like, "This is the Clone Wars." He's like, "Yeah, let's go," and it's just like all those memories from the Clone Wars just came flooding back for me on why I loved their relationship so much. And I think that they did that so well. What were your thoughts on seeing that for the first time when she gets up as a small Padawan? She's got the two blue lightsabers, and it's
I
just
noticed
like,
that.
oh my God, dude. Like, we are back in the Clone Wars. You see the clones
Yep.
running up behind her. You see Rex go running by.
Yeah, I like that part when she was deflecting the lightsaber or the flashes, the
Laser
lasers and
blast.
stuff, and
Yeah.
Rex goes, "Good job, Commando. I'll take it from here." And you see everybody just run past her and take care of stuff, and then that was, and then you get to see like in the fog the walkers walking slowly. So it was pretty epic. They did an epic job on that. I was like, wow.
I literally screamed at the TV, "It's Rex!" You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
like that bond between Ahsoka and Rex too. Like, it was huge. Going from where they were and where he served under her and through Rebels and the end of the Clone Wars when he fought the clones alongside her. Like, those were his brothers, but
Yep.
he had her back. And it's just like, man, there were so many emotions wrapped up into that first flashback of them running. And then, she says something to him. I can't remember, something along the lines of something being not right and everything. And then he's basically like, then you've learned nothing,
Yes.
and it's
Yeah.
just like, that just portrays, Anakin, like, I'm here to teach you. I'm not here to fight you. Like, we need to go back to the beginning. We need
drop kicks her into the fog.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, that's the thing, man. Like, we're here for you. We're using your memories to figure out what is wrong with you. What he doesn't want her to follow the same path. And she has this feeling in her. And this is what I'm getting out of. I'd love to hear your thoughts, that she feels like, since, he trained her and, she knows everything he does. And he talked about how I passed on all my knowledge to you, you're part of a legacy, that she's like, well, look what happened to you, and you trained me. I'm no better than you, because this is a possibility for me as well. And he's basically like, you've learned absolutely nothing. And he just, like you said, kicks her in the chest. And then, all of a sudden we're on Mandalore, which was another great episode, because you get to see little Ahsoka tearing through Mandalorians. And it's just like, oh my God, this is the coolest shit I have ever seen. And then you really think about it, and I'll stop for a minute here because I've got so much that I'm going with. Let me just stop. Let me just stop right there. What did you think about, that transfer scene, going into the Battle of Mandalore and seeing that from a live action standpoint?
With a live action standpoint,
Yeah.
It's just freaking amazing. I mean, with animation, you can do anything you want, but with live action, it's gotta, in order for it to not be crap, it has to be fantastic. And they hit all the right check boxes on it. They had Rex there, they had the clone troopers, they had a little Ahsoka, and everything, everywhere you looked, you knew exactly where they were.
Yeah.
There was no guessing. Oh, what are they doing now? What is that? You see her fighting Mandalorians, and so it's just they did a great job.
And for me at this, I'm crying like a little girl. You know what I mean? I've got a snot bubble at this point. My face is soaking wet with tears. And Anakin from Revenge of the Sith walks up behind her and says, I don't know this battle. And it's like, that's right. You weren't there because Darth Maul was there. That's where she got into that battle with Darth Maul. You weren't there. And for them to keep up with what we were talking about earlier with Rebels and the consistency, and to see that live action, to see that scar on Anakin's face, to see that hair, to see that outfit. He's got on his Revenge of the Sith gear, and he's standing right there. And it's just like, man, to see. And I believe she had green lightsabers at that point, didn't she? Or did she had green ones in the beginning and then she had the blue ones in that one?
I want to say, man, I can't remember. It was such a like total huge wave of feeling and emotion that
Yeah.
came with it. I just I just like tried to write it.
Yeah.
So
It literally, I mean, literally, man, just I do not often say this about anything that I watch, but it literally put me in another place. Like, it was just like there was no, I need a snack or I need a drink. Like, I was absolutely glued in. And what do you think of her portrayal of young Ahsoka?
I think she did great. I mean, she did a fantastic job.
I think so too.
She looked like Ahsoka. you know?
Yeah.
So, and her interaction with Anakin was really good.
Yeah, it just, oh my God. It's like I said, I wanted to delay getting started on this because I knew that this would take up a majority of our time because this is something that I can talk hours about because I loved it so much. Dino did ask in the chat, what's your guys' recommendation on how to watch the movies? Should I watch in order, release, or the prequels, then New Hope, and so on? What would you say for that, Michael?
Well, I'm old school.
Yeah.
I was there when Star Wars originally came out. So
Yeah.
I'm always saying, I always go with New Hope, Empire, and then Return of the Jedi, and then start with the prequels. And then if you're up for it, 7, 8, 9 at the end. But
yeah, we could skip those.
Just skip them, yeah.
7, 8, 9. I definitely, I would not hold it against you if you skip 7, 8, 9, unless you want to just see it to just know it's epic horribleness.
Yeah. But if you wanted to go with the timeline,
yeah,
I would do the prequels first, and then go from, and in between the prequels, do Rogue One.
Yeah,
and then because Rogue One transitions straight into Star Wars.
Yeah, A New Hope. It sure does. And in another way too, like I'm like you. I'm 45 years old. I'm almost 46. So I was a Star Wars kid in the 80s. I watched Star Wars. I watched horror movies. I watched Star Wars, and I watched Superman. Like that was my thing as a kid. And to me, knowing, just the only thing I would say is starting with episodes 4, 5, and 6. New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi. It gives you get to see all the little things from the prequels where it's like, oh. Like I know what's coming, but and then after the prequels, I'd go ahead and jump into Clone Wars and Rebels, at least. And then like Michael was saying, watching Rogue One, because that jumps right into A New Hope. It does. It's the end of Rogue One is the beginning of A New Hope. So that was
Phantom Menace, the Attack of the Clones, and then you do Clone Wars.
No, I do Revenge of the Sith. Then I do probably Clone Wars, Rebels.
Because Clone Wars actually fell
between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
At the end of 2 was the Clone Wars movie. And then the Clone Wars runs through Revenge of the Sith. While the Clone Wars is going on in this place, Revenge of the Sith stuff is going on in this place. And then you get the end of Revenge of the Sith and the 7th season of the Clone Wars intertwining with each other while one thing's going on, this is going on. Dino, I know that's super complicated, buddy. And it's just like from the outside looking in, it's like there's no way. Like there's absolutely no way I could do this.
There's 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. I'm on season 5 right now, so
all right.
I'm slowly chipping away at it.
I'll tell you what, man, when you get to that last season of Clone Wars, and Russell, I know you'll back me up on this one. That was the culmination of they did so good in wrapping so much up, man. And it's especially the last 2 episodes, they're full of so much emotion, so much that has to do with now and the things happening now and a lot of the things that happened in Rebels. Like it was really good. And I think you're absolutely gonna love the last season. For real, seriously.
Okay. Can't wait, man.
But yeah, man, that's a lot of stuff to go through. And another point that I'd like to talk about too, while all this is going on with Anakin and Ahsoka, and they're getting their training moments, in between that, we have another character, and he is the son of Kanan. that shows up that's Hera's, son as well. And he's definitely force sensitive because he can hear the lightsaber battle that Anakin and Ahsoka are having,
Hmm.
and Hu Yang, like we were saying, he kind of gives a name drop for Kanan Jarrus, and it's like that's Kanan Jarrus's son, and Kanan
Hmm.
Jarrus was a Jedi, so he knows, what's going on there. And Hera has enough, she trusts, she knows about, Kanan, and and trusts what he says. Like I doubt she's hearing the lightsabers at all. She's going off of, what he's saying, and ultimately,
Hmm.
it pays off for them. So, in the words of, Palpatine, like we look at your future with great interest. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like that's the vibe I got from, Jason's character. Was that kind of like what you were feeling with that with
Yeah, I
him?
was like, man, he's really strong in the Force. He was,
Yeah.
you know, uh, especially being able to hear that, but the Hu Yang kind of shut him down, shut him
Yeah.
down pretty hard.
Well, even Harris like, no, and he's just like, no. He what does he say? He's like, do you know how to build a lightsaber? He's like, yes. He's like, will you teach me? He's like, no. Just flat out. And it was great. Like Hu Yang's character is fantastic.
Did they ever?
But
Did they ever say why they didn't send him to Luke's Jedi school?
no, they haven't said anything about that.
You,
So I'm kind of wondering, where this falls. I'm assuming this is after the Mandalorian season 2. It almost has to be.
yeah, because the Mandalorian was 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Mandalorian season 2 is what, a year after that. This
Yeah.
is 10 years after Return of the Jedi. Is it? Or is it?
No, it's 10 years from the end of Rebels, which
Oh,
was before the Battle of Endor. I do know that because at the end of Rebels, they say that both Hera and Rex fought in the Battle of Endor. In like a little thing at the end of
oh, okay.
Rebels. So I know that was before that. I don't know how far before that though.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so they're pretty close together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that Luke was building his school right then. He had Grogu,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I
one
mean,
question. Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to change the subject. I
Yeah.
was going to ask you one character I saw who was so cool,
Mhm.
but they killed him off super fast.
Oh,
Was
I know where you're going.
Merrick?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about him? I know it looked like he was an Inquisitor because he had like the dual lightsaber that spun.
Right. But if you did notice when he was killed,
The
what
dark
came out
vapor.
of his body?
Yeah, the dark vapor.
Yeah. So I mean that brings me back to Rebels with um um Darth Maul's brother, you know,
Oh,
or was it Clone Wars? Like he was made that way. When the Emperor killed him, the same thing happened. So I feel like he was um made from the witches, like that's the
oh,
impression that I'm getting at this point.
gotcha.
They're not really saying anything, but I mean, if you kill a guy and he's hollow and vapors are coming out, I'm thinking, okay, well, so it tells me two things. One, he was something different.
Mhm.
Maybe not, the strongest, but two, is he fixable? That's a question that brings to me too, because the witches are right there with Thawne or
Mhm.
with Thrawn, like, hey, I need this guy back. Is it possible for you to conjure your magic and bring him back? That's a question that I have.
Do you think all the stormtroopers under Thrawn are the black smoke guys?
I don't
That's why
I
they have
don't
those red things on their legs and
I
stuff.
don't know. I mean, it's possible, I guess, but I know that when they got transported, it was a full ship full of people that they
Mhm.
got transported at the end of Rebels. Um, but Thrawn did say we suffered heavy losses.
Mhm.
So, I guess that could go either way as well. I guess it's kind of like a wait and see. With that, it's pretty much all speculation, at this point. But again, where we were with Anakin and Ahsoka, to wrap that up, they have a final confrontation as Anakin's walking up. He's got the red lightsaber, he's got the red eyes. They're back in
Mhm.
the world between worlds. He's walking. You're getting those flashes of Vader, as he's walking up, which I'm just sitting here like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he goes to fight her, and she takes the lightsaber from him, and she holds it up to him, and she doesn't hurt him. You
Didn't her
know,
eyes turn red for a second?
I didn't see it. If they did, I didn't see it. I'd have to go back and look. But that was his lesson to her.
Mhm.
That's what I'm taking from this. That was his lesson, saying, you're not like me. I've given you an opportunity to see that you are not like me.
Yeah.
His eyes are red. She throws the lightsaber, and he turns back. His eyes turn back to blue, and he's just like, there might be hope for you yet.
Yep.
So a lot of the people that were like, there's no way Ahsoka's going to beat Anakin in a duel, that wasn't the point of what they were doing. That was him giving her the opportunity to become what he became, and her choosing not to, and him showing her, you're not me. You're not going to fall for the same things as me. And at this part, I'm balling again. Still, just I watch Star Wars by myself for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like it's just such a culmination of so many things, and it just I absolutely loved it so much. Russell is saying that it was awesome seeing young Ahsoka. Dude, I
Yeah.
know. It so was, and he's also saying the Clone Wars was awesome. And that gave me goosebumps with the Anakin Ahsoka battle on Ahsoka TVs. It did, man. Like it literally, gave me that feeling of holy shit. I cannot believe this is happening right now. I am so freaking excited. And Russell did, clarify that. He said, yes, Michael, her eyes did turn red for a second. So that's even cooler, like that's something that I didn't pick up, but yeah, it's gonna, oh no, I guess I'm gonna have to watch that episode again, like this. But I absolutely loved it that much. And going into episode 6, getting past that, they find Ahsoka finds out, what Sabine did, and where she's at.
Mhm.
You get this little, they go and see the whales,
Yeah.
and they figure that out. And as they're, taking off, Ahsoka looks at Hu Yang and says, tell me a story.
Yep.
And to me, like, let me ask you, how did you feel about that when they were sitting there and he started his story, the way that he did? Like, how did you feel about that actually being in the show?
Well, I thought him asking first and she's
Mhm.
like shut him down.
Yeah.
I was like, she needs to like open herself up more. And then I thought when she finally asked if he could tell her a story, I thought that
Yeah.
was a perfect ending
Well,
for
that
that.
was like, to me, it was almost like, after having that moment with Anakin, she is now self-assured and back, if not back, heading back towards the old Ahsoka,
Yep. Yep.
that made
That's
her
that's a good point.
so good of a character,
Hmm.
and the light colors that she's wearing now, the smile, the happiness of that character, even though things are bad, like it's like she's back, the character that I fell in love with in Clone Wars and Rebels,
Hmm.
who went through all that stuff that made her the way that she was, is now back because a lot of the doubts that she had, Anakin cleared up for her, like only a master could do for a Padawan. And
Yep.
she knows that there's still so many things that she can learn from him. And it's just, man, I absolutely love that. And
Probably took a lot of weight off her shoulders, learning that she wasn't like Anakin because he trained her,
yeah,
and she wasn't going to end up exactly like him
yeah,
as a clone of Anakin. She's
right,
her own person. So yeah.
yeah. And that was a huge message. You know what I mean? Like, it was knowing as much as about Star Wars, as much as I've watched Star Wars. It's just like, wow, man, like that's huge because starting off the show, she was very cold.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ahsoka was very cold. She was constantly disappointed. You know, she was constantly aggravated, you know, whether it be about Sabine or just like life in general. Like there was just
Yeah.
something missing from her. And to see her smiling again and being that happy Ahsoka, it's just like, all right, man. Like I'm definitely on board. And for, you know, Hu Yang to say a long time ago in a galaxy
Galaxy
far,
far,
far
far
away.
away.
You know, like when this is all said and done, you know, when Star Wars is done, I won't see it in my lifetime. I just picture the person that was always telling that story to be him. You know,
Mm,
for like every movie, the crawl that you get, it's
mhm.
like that's like his voice because he will be the one that knows everything about freaking everything.
Well, that's kind of funny you say that because I think George Lucas had originally intended for all the Star Wars movies to be narrated from the perspective of R2D2 and C3PO.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
kind of like, from their perspective of the Star Wars.
Yeah.
So Hu Yang was actually, I don't know if you knew this, but I read like legends where he was supposed to be like thousands of years old. And so he trained generations of Jedi to make their lightsabers. So,
Wow.
him telling it, in a galaxy far, far away, that would be pretty apropos because he's
Right.
that old and he could tell the stories.
That's a great word, by the way. That's a great word. Probably one of the best words ever said on this channel. I guarantee you that. Fantastic. But yeah, man, I agree 100%. Like it's just, oh fuck, man. Like I'm just so wrapped up in this, and the fact that we only have 2 episodes left. I'm like, no, because I think that the way it's gonna go, from what I've heard, and I could be wrong, you may have heard something different, was we're gonna get the end of Ahsoka. And
Mhm.
then later on, we're going to get Mandalorian season 4. And then that's supposed to go into the Thrawn movie after that.
I heard about the Thrawn movie
Yeah.
or I don't know if it's the Mandalorian movie where it just ties everybody together, like Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Thrawn,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to do that or what, but I know the Acolyte's supposed to come out in 2024, I think. I think so. So I don't know if they're going to throw that in the mix too. So
Yeah. Wow. I mean, this isn't going anywhere anytime soon, man. I
yeah,
mean, the fact that Dave Filoni came back with this, it's just like, just when you got me down just a little bit, Star
yeah,
Wars, you come through. And it makes me think of Dumb and Dumber. You totally redeem yourself.
yeah,
You know what I mean with
yeah.
this, and it's I love it, man. I absolutely loved it.
Well, in episode 1, I got this feeling. Did you? I don't know if you did or not. I don't know if you even watched the show. Because they introduced so many different things. In Star Wars, it's always in a galaxy far, far away.
Yep.
Here, they have 2 galaxies. So they introduced another galaxy, which they've never done in a Star Wars series. And then you have this ball map, and it looks so Stargate SG-1-ish
Yeah.
that I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. I mean, they didn't do it corny or cheesy. It was like really outstanding, So you have like all this stuff that's new and introduced, and then you have this like ancient temple that looks kind of like Stargate, SG-1, and they're showing all this stuff, and I that kind of hooked me in a lot too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Fantastic. Now, one person that we really haven't got into too much, and Russell, that your comment is a perfect, segue. Um, he thinks that Sabine looked awesome too, and that the battle that Sabine had, gave me goosebumps because I thought she was gone. And we did talk a little bit about Sabine earlier, and her interaction with Ezra, and her not making the best decisions. But
Mhm.
at the end of Rebels, you get the sense that Ahsoka's like, we're gonna go find Ezra, and she's like, I'm all about it. And then you find out in the first episode of Ahsoka, well, she tried to train Sabine to be a Jedi,
Mhm.
but from a character aspect of Sabine, being a Mandalorian, and just the way that Sabine is, I do agree that she did look awesome. That she isn't really the personality type, for a Jedi. Not that, you have to be a certain way to be a Jedi, but I could see that there would be difficulty with her, a Mandalorian, coming into, the Jedi, values and all the things that Jedi believe and, how they get their powers and everything. And then, her with a lightsaber, I mean, she wasn't bad. If you remember in Rebels, she did have the dark lightsaber for a bit. She did have the dark saber. But when she goes into this battle with Shin, it's just like, if I'm a betting person, you know what I mean? Like, to me, Shin is badass too.
Mm-hmm.
Like a basket case of emotions, just what you would think that a Sith would be. So, from a Jedi standpoint and just a character standpoint, how do you think that they did with Sabine, like going to live action? Because we didn't really talk too much about that.
I when I first saw her, it took me a little while to like get attached to her, but
Right.
I guess Steve always tells me,
Mhm.
because I'm always like, man, I hate that person. And he's like, well, then they're doing a great job as an actor.
Yeah.
Because so I think Sabine's doing a great job as an actor, because part of the time I feel for her, and other times I'm like, you're a stupid person.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Get out of my face. But
Yeah.
she's doing a good job. Shin, oh man, she is like fantastic in her
Yeah.
role. She's like the perfect kind of girlfriend you want to have a bad decision with. So
Right. And I mean, that's the thing too. A lot of people are falling in love with that character. You know what I mean? They really are. And it's just like, she's a young girl, she's beautiful, and she's just like 0 to 100, just like that.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And
She got the good psychosis, man.
it's like, you've got to be freaking kidding me, like with her. But Russell is saying, isn't the Sith supposed to be a red lightsaber? And that's what we were talking about a little earlier, Russell, because we don't feel like Balin and Shin are fully Siths. They're
Mhm.
kind of like in between, and they're going where the money is. But if I had to put money on it, if I'm going to be a betting person, her lightsaber is probably going to turn red eventually.
Oh, you
know,
think
I
Shin's will?
like, so from a story aspect, I could see a redemption with her because it's so far out in left field.
Mm-hmm.
But what we know about her now and her personality now, I feel like that's the direction that character's heading, unless something comes to light to where either she gets saved or something like that. Maybe something happens with Thrawn and maybe Sabine ends up helping her in some way to kind of
Mm-hmm.
change that personality. But the way that it's heading now, I see her on the path to the dark side for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they come across as mercenaries,
Yeah.
so I mean, and they don't seem to practice the Sith way. And when Balin Skull talks about the Jedi, he doesn't talk disparaging of them as you see the Sith, like the
Right.
Emperor or Darth Maul did. It's more of seems more like a disappointment, and I could see, it just depends on if maybe Shin gets a Sith master, I
Yeah.
guess. But
There's always two.
yeah, but this is a great opportunity for an awesome backstory for her,
Yeah.
that they could do.
Yeah, and it's here's the thing with that though. Unless they introduce a Sith or something
Mhm.
like that, I don't know.
Abeloth.
Yeah, like there's that.
Yeah.
So unless there's something for them to fight together, I don't see her changing. But because right now she's really the only her and Balin are really the only competition for Ahsoka.
Mhm.
And even Sabine, with little that she does know, that's still more than the average stormtrooper. She's still going to tear through them.
Yeah.
You know, so without that, you know, villain that can, you know, match that fight with them, you know, I don't see them helping each other out until there's someone else that's maybe bigger and badder
Yeah.
for them to fight. And I mean, if you talk about, you know, bringing that character in, you know, from Legends, maybe that's how, you know, we lose Balin. You know, I mean, that's a way out. You know, you hate for that to be that, but I mean,
Mhm.
maybe that's what Shin would need to need Ahsoka, you know, to be with Ahsoka and Sabine
Mhm.
is for, you know, something to happen to Balin. I mean, I could definitely see it going that way and possibility. Granted, you know, it's not like I know anything. I'm just, you know, just seeing a bunch of, you know, movies that play out and stories that play out. They need a big bad to fight together to get close.
Or she joins the big bad.
Yeah. And then I'd probably think that lightsaber is definitely turning red at that point. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like that's
Yep.
that's the thing. But man, I mean, I could sit here and talk about Ahsoka, you know, and Star Wars in general, dude. We could do this for 4 hours, you know, and not
Yeah.
miss a beat. But I definitely like to do this more often, whether we're over here, you know, whether we're on the Carbonite Jedi, dude. You know, I love to talk about Star Wars and we definitely need to do this again soon, my friend, for
Yes.
sure. Like like I said, I've still got a million other things I could freaking talk about right now. But
Yep.
always love having you over here, man. And
I appreciate it.
whether we do it here or do it on your channel, let's go ahead and kind of like deep dive into this once it's over, man. Kind of sit
Okay.
down and go through it with everyone and you know, what did we think? And you know, hopefully some of these things we talked about, you know, come true and we get to see some things that we never got to see, man. I think that's
Yeah.
great.
It's fantastic.
And I don't know about you, my friend, but as soon as this stream ends, I am headed to the couch to watch the new Ahsoka episode that I
Me
hope that
too.
everybody else is getting on. And we'll do this again soon, bud. And I want to thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed
dude.
it.
Yeah, dude, for sure. Anytime. Well, that's pretty much all we got for tonight. I only wanted to go for about an hour because, as you guys know, I want to watch Mandalorian. And it's
Ahsoka.
9:15 at night. Or I'm sorry, Ahsoka. I am sorry, Ahsoka. I did watch The Mandalorian season 3 a couple weeks ago for the first time. I finally got through that. And did you notice real quick before we get off in Ahsoka, or now I'm mixing them both up in Mandalorian season 3 when they're in light speed and
Yes.
Grogu looks over and sees one of the whales.
The Purgles, yeah.
And it's just like, oh my god, it's one of the whales. You know what I mean? It was just fantastic, man.
I wonder if it opened its mouth, would Ahsoka be in there?
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. What's the timeline here? You know,
Yeah.
but I thought that was absolutely great. But yeah, so gonna sign off for now. And I want to thank you, Michael, for being here again. And I want to thank everybody else for hanging out with us and talking about Ahsoka. And I will definitely I'll talk to you backstage for just a minute, Michael, before we
Okay.
get off. And I'll see everybody else. Actually, Thursday, we'll be doing a Halloween Kills stream. So if you are into Halloween Kills or you don't like Halloween Kills, or if you just want to talk about Halloween Kills, I will be having a Halloween Kills stream on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So join me for that. And on that note, we're going to take off for tonight, and I will see everyone next time. Peace.